is Akame? Let's talk about her name. Her name is actually two words put together in Japanese. The words being red and eye, meaning the title of Akame ga Kill is the Red Eye Killer, which is a frighteningly accurate name, since like only two of the bad guys who met Akame managed to survive the entire anime. Everyone else died. The sheer amount of death that surrounds her makes everyone think she's a cold and calculating killer, completely numb to the world and its violence. And everyone thinks she's edgy as well. But everyone is wrong. She isn't cold and calculating. Number one, she's too stupid to be calculating. Number two, she's not cold, she's just socially awkward. And number three, she's not numb to death. She feels every death, whether it's her ally or enemy. She just bottles up her feelings when her friends die, but when her enemies die, it's a completely different thing. Her Imperial Arms Murasame remembers all those that is killed, forcing Akame to carry the weight of everyone she's murdered. But she definitely is edgy. No one was wrong about that. On a more brighter note, let's talk about the things she enjoys. Food, especially meat, and that's about it. Let's talk about her history. Oh, it's a bad history. If you thought Esdeath had a terrible upbringing, then prepare to feel silly. Even though Esdeath's parents both ended up with a tragic case of the death, they were still better than Akame's parents, because they sold her and her sister to the Empire, and not to the good part of the Empire. Well, I mean, there isn't really a good place to be sold into as a child, but this is about the worst place you could be sold into. They were sold into a program where children had to survive in environments filled to the brim with danger beasts, and the few children who survived this were put through more grueling trials to become elite assassins. But they weren't put into these groups together, as Akame and her sister found out, because they both survived the trials by working together. But the mad scientist guy running this wanted to separate the two of them to avoid them becoming dependent on each other, even though, well, you know, that ship had kind of already sailed. But despite that, when they were separated, they learnt to survive apart from each other. After going through all of her training, Akame is given her Imperial Arms Murasame, a demon sword, cursed by the first Emperor. Anyone cut by its blade will be cursed and die within seconds. With this sword, she becomes an unstoppable assassin, going on multiple missions for the Empire, even fighting Chelsea at one point. All of her missions were a success for the Empire, until someone that she trusted told her the reason that there are so many rebels in the Empire, because the Prime Minister is using his position of power to create so much pain and suffering. Akame is skeptical about this because she's been serving the Empire her entire life and they never did anything wrong to her, like separate her from her sister, kill all of her friends, force her to become an assassin. You know, they never did anything like that. Akame goes out and speaks to the common folk about all this, and they all say the exact same thing, that the Prime Minister is evil and needs to be overthrown. But she stays with the Empire out of loyalty, right up until she's sent on a mission to assassinate the former General Najinda. Najinda managed to convince her to join the rebellion against the Empire, and because of Akame's exposure to the common people, she agrees with Najinda that the Empire needs to fall. Word quickly gets out to her sister Korome, who is also an elite assassin at this point, that Akame had left the Empire to join the rebellion. And this is what starts the intense hatred between the two sisters, as Korome hates Akame for leaving her, and well, Akame don't really hate Korome. This is a totally one-sided thing. And that takes us all the way to the beginning of Akame ga Kill, where we see Akame in her first mission with Night Raid, where she chooses not to kill Tatsumi, because he's not a rich psychopath. Then she changes her mind and tries to kill him, because he decided to stand with the rich psychopath. Luckily for him, she hits his lucky charm, stopping the sword from cutting him. After Tatsumi does their job for them, Night Raid kidnap him and bring him back to their base. Then after they kidnap him, Akame acts like she don't even want him there, even though she dragged him here. Eventually, after many missions, Akame goes to like Tatsumi. Also, he cooked their food. I think that has more to do with it. Anyway, once Bulat died, Akame really starts to help Tatsumi in his training. The two of them go on an assassination mission together, and the guy they're fighting has an Imperial Arms that transforms him into the person you love the most. This is supposed to stop you from attacking him, so when he was fighting Akame, he turned into her sister. But that didn't stop her. She still tried to kill him, even when he looked exactly like her sister. After her attack, the guy asks her why she still tried to kill him, so she tells him,
"My desire to kill her is because I love her so dearly."
Then she kills him. After this mission, she really starts to like Tatsumi, but not enough to let him rest when he's injured, because he still has to cook for her. This is probably why when Tatsumi got kidnapped by Esdeath, Akame was the only person who wanted to go on a suicidal rescue mission to get him, because until they got him, there was no one to cook her food. And when she finds Tatsumi after he escapes the love of his life, she stops him from being cooked. After they get Tatsumi back to the base, they find out they were followed back, and have to fight these living sex doll things. I know that's not what they're called, but I'm convinced that's what this guy uses them for. Inside of the base, Akame finds out that her sword doesn't work on cyborgs, and she has to cut the skin to kill them. The cyborg brags to Akame about this, before she cuts him into his component parts and kills him that way. She then has to fight the creator of all these creatures after he took a bunch of roids and hit his growth spurt. Tatsumi piggybacks her all the way to the top, and throws Akame at his weak point. During the fight, Chelsea arrives with Susanoo, and everyone's a little hostile towards them, but Chelsea gives Akame a lollipop and wins her over straight away. Then Akame stars in a mini beach episode. It's in this episode that Akame finds out that Night Raid is going to fight the Jaegers, and Akame is going to have to fight her sister. When the time to fight finally comes. Korome and Akame don't really fight each other. Korome uses her puppets to fight Akame mostly, but they do lock blades a few times, but it's mostly minor stuff. She then stands too close to Bowles when he tries to kill himself, but Leone shields her from the blast. They then leave the capital area to assassinate some Prince Lord guy, but he has his own little assassin group, and they fight Night Raid, but this group turned out to be way too little and they lost. Later when Tatsumi is kidnapped again, and I know, what's wrong with this guy? He's done the same thing twice now, but this time he chooses to make it a little bit different, because he's getting executed this time. So what's left of Night Raid mounts a suicidal rescue operation, and this time they actually do it. But luckily for them, the Jaegers were nowhere to be found. Unfortunately for them, General Budo and General Esdeath were there. But Akame isn't silly, so instead of fighting them, she goes to get Tatsumi's Imperial arms. Then she runs away with everyone else. To calm down after this fight, Tatsumi and Esdeath decide to go to a public execution together. Bit of a strange decision, but this is a strange girl, so it makes sense. But there was actually a silver lining to all this. Korome arranged the bodies in such a way to send a message to Akame. I don't know how, but Akame seems to know. She's told to come to the ruins of the institution that they were both a part of. You know, the horrible thing they got sold into. Yeah, they're going back there. Akame travels there alone, and so does Korome. Or, at least they thought they did. Tatsumi followed Akame, and Wave followed Korome. And it's a good thing they did, because their 1v1, well, it was never really a 1v1. Korome was cheating the entire time by using her puppets. But then this creature, annoyed by Korome's cheating, decides to make it an actual 1v1 and squishes both of her puppets. It then goes to squish Korome for her transgressions, but Akame saves her. Then to thank Akame, Korome cheats again and summons even more puppets. Akame very quickly dispatches of them and then moves to do the same thing to Korome, but she gets stopped by Wave. What was even the point in challenging Akame to a 1v1 if she's doing everything she can to make it a 2v1, a 3v1, a 20v1? She's not even taking this seriously! To make it an actual 1v1, Tatsumi tackles Wave out the way, because he just wants to watch the 1v1. Then as soon as it's an actual 1v1, Akame wrecks Korome, like she put in no effort, which kind of explains why Korome kept cheating if she knew this was how things were going to end up. Like, was Korome ever even good, or is she just washed? Wade takes her body away and Akame has a little cry. After this little cry, without skipping a beat, Akame goes on her next mission, her final mission. The Revolutionary Army is going to attack the capital, and all of this is a distraction so Night Raid can sneak in and kill the Prime Minister. Maybe the Emperor, if they're lucky. And they did not turn out to be lucky, because obviously the Emperor had the best soldiers in the Empire to guard him, and the Prime Minister. But Akame managed to get through them and attack the Prime Minister directly, but he has an overshield, so the attack was useless. The Emperor, then sick of Akame's attitude, decides to activate his Imperial arms, and horrified at the thought of these rebels destroying his glorious capital city, he decides to do it himself, before getting destroyed by Tatsumi. But at the very least, it was a mutual kill. Akame is with Tatsumi as he passes, shortly followed by Esdeath. Horrified by Tatsumi's death, Esdeath destroys a large amount of the capital and the rebels in it, creating an arena for her and Akame to fight in. Finally, Akame gets a true 1v1, and it starts off badly, and then gets worse. Eventually, Akame realizes that she's gonna lose unless she does something drastic, so she cuts herself with Murasame, taking the full weight of everyone she's killed, making her even stronger and faster. With this newfound power, she quickly overpowers Esdeath, cutting her arm and mortally wounding her. But no one told Esdeath this, and she cuts off her mortal wounds, stopping the curse from spreading. Akame picks up the pace, attacking Esdeath from every angle before she gets an opening. Without hesitating, she goes in for the kill, before Esdeath uses her ultimate ability to freeze time before Akame could kill her. But Akame foresaw this, and managed to move even after Esdeath froze time, leaving an after image for Esdeath. Now, I have no idea how she was able to move, so I looked it up. And it turns out no one knows how she was able to move. The only real reason that I could find was,
well, that's just lazy writing.
after time unfreezes, Akame drops on Esdeath from above, cutting her torso. Esdeath knows she's defeated, so she walks over to Tatsumi's body so she can die next to him. After Esdeath's death, there is no one left who can stand against the revolution. A mortally wounded Leone says goodbye to Akame before she dies alone in an alleyway. Akame then speaks to Najinda and offers to take the blame for all of the Revolutionary Army's despair. I think that means Najinda can blame her for all of Night Raid's actions, so that she can rebuild the nation, because Akame was planning on leaving anyway. But they could have just blamed it on some random dead guy, or gal, I'm all about inclusion, but they don't. Akame takes the blame. And that takes us to the end of Akame Ga Kill. But Akame is one of 4 characters who survives, so she still has some stuff to do. She gets on a boat and leaves the mainland, and gets caught up in a storm and shipwrecked almost immediately. She washes ashore and gets rescued by 2 girls, Hinawa and Tobari. Sorry if I butchered those names. To repay them, Akame teaches them the only thing she knows: violence. She also reveals to them the real reason why she came here. After taking the full weight of her demon sword's curse, it's slowly killing her, and she wants to find a cure. She also, and spoiler for the manga by the way, wants to turn Tatsumi back into a human. She speaks to a village elder, and he decides because her sword curse is killing her, she shouldn't fight in an upcoming war the village is about to enter. Now, why would a random stranger defend a village she just joined? I don't know, but they thought she would, and she does! Because she ignored him and went anyway, and she kicks ass. So much ass that the elders just accept that she's better than any of them have or ever will be. So they let her fight their enemy's leader. At the end of the fight, luckily for Akame, her enemy runs away. Now I say luckily because her sword broke during the fight. Akame then goes back to the village and continues to teach the locals violence. Then one of the elders tells her a way to stop her curse, but tells her not to rush into things, despite the fact it's slowly killing her. But they do give her some plants to ease the pain of the curse. She then takes what is now an entire class of people out to hunt a danger beast. Shortly after this, she loses in a sparring match against Hinawa, her best student. But she did teach her everything that she knows, and she's also dying, so like, cut Akame some slack. No one else thought this, and Hinawa is quickly promoted to captain. They then fight a few more battles. Akame refuses the promotion so that she can stay on the front lines. Then they go into another battle, and Akame's curse starts to act up again, so she's forced to run away from the fight. And then the manga got cancelled. And that's who Akame is. The anime was named after her. Of course she was gonna live. If you enjoyed that video, I have a video on who Esdeath is, and 2 videos going over the entire Akame ga Kill anime. And if that's still not enough for you, then I have 2 more videos in the works about who is Chelsea and who is Wave. So if that sounds interesting to you, then subscribe. Even if you're only mildly interested, you can just unsubscribe later. But I'm sure if you've made it this far into the video, you're more than mildly interested. So before I take up any more of your time, subscribe and goodbye.